He's so cool.
That's right, I just went on a short little trip down to Hollywood, California to visit Universal Studios, in which a new Nintendo area has been built entitled Super Nintendo World. This area opened in the spring of last year and is pretty similar to the Japanese version that opened in Universal Japan. Since it's far easier for me to get to LA than it is for me to get to Japan, I opted to go to this LA version, which is very convenient for me, relatively speaking. I was able to drive down there. I'd been to Universal Studios once before, and that was in 2022. So this is my second time going, and yeah, I think it's a park. It's very good. Overall, I'd recommend it. But for me, of course, the highlight is Super Nintendo World, which is the newest area in the park. So I've written down some items that I want to go over to sort of elaborate on my visit there and just give my thoughts on this new sort of avenue of entertainment that Nintendo has just recently entered. We've gotten quite a bit of that recently. We have Nintendo entering films with Super Mario Brothers and then the upcoming Legend of Zelda movie. And then we have theme parks with 3, as far as I'm aware, one in Universal Japan, one in Universal Hollywood, and then the upcoming one in Universal Studios Orlando. First up, I'll go over the earliest impressions, which is when you walk in. The first day I went straight to Super Nintendo World, went down the escalators, get a great view of Super Nintendo World from the escalator, which I had noticed last time I was there because I could see it being built. And yeah, walked into the park. I used the exit as an entrance. There's a main entrance and then there's a side exit area. And then entering the park was pretty fantastic. You do in fact feel like you have entered the world of Super Mario Brothers. The land itself is just really well designed. There's always something to look at. Usually it's moving, like there's tons of Koopa Troopas and coins spinning. It's probably the perfect way to translate the world of Mario into a theme park, and that's one of the most enjoyable parts, is just being able to enter that world and see it translated into a physical space very, very accurately. Next, I'll go over the park's main functionality, which is this wristband. These are available at basically all of the shops, and they function as sort of the main way in which you can interact with multiple different objects. I'd say the most common of which is question blocks and just sort of regular brick blocks. So they sell different ones of various characters. I have a Toad. Yeah, you can punch blocks with them and they make the sound, and you collect coins. You can also interact with sort of secret hidden Mario icons. Basically anything with a Mario icon. You can tap it with this, which I think uses an NFC. There's sort of 2 alcove rooms that are hidden in the park, which aren't immediately obvious, but actually are just like small little areas where you can go and collect some coins. Just a kind of fun detail to find these sort of secret little areas, which you might not immediately know how to get to. Like one of them's on a ledge and you're like, I wonder how people get on that ledge, and then you eventually find the tunnel that goes up there. And then you can also connect it to the Universal Studios app, which has a Nintendo World section, and there you can see different badges you've earned, your ranking, and the amount of coins you have. Not something you can really experience in any other kind of theme park. The implementation is really fun. It's like pretty simple. Like the goal is just to get more coins, which is, that works for Mario because that's obviously something you do in the Mario games. So that feels very appropriate, and it's a fun way of doing it. There's also key challenges, which are sort of scattered around, and these require the use of power bands to unlock, and you sort of wait in a queue and then play the event. One of them, there's a sleeping piranha plant, and you have to smash all the clocks that are ringing to get it to go back to sleep again. There's a couple other ones. Some of them are more intuitive than others, and some are more difficult than others. So I can see that being a frustration if you don't have too much time in the park. Fortunately, I was able to allot 2 days. Where I was able to spend most of the day in the park, both days. So I was able to do all the challenges at least once, but if you have less time and it's a busier day where there's longer lines, you might find that more irritating, because if you fail a challenge, the only way to retry it is to wait in the line again, and if it's a long line, that's kind of annoying. So that's probably why I'd recommend allotting a fair amount of time and trying to go there when it's not as busy, if possible. But yeah, just punching blocks with this thing is very, very fun. I like that they have eyes on them. It's just like, man, that's freaking awesome. In terms of price, God, these are kind of ridiculous. They're solid, sturdy objects and they function well, but you can't really argue that it's a good deal. They are necessary for the experience, I would say. If you actually want to get the full experience of Super Nintendo World, I would not recommend skipping these. If you're more a casual Nintendo fan and only really care about going to the ride and maybe just looking around the land, then yeah, you're probably fine without it. But if you want the full immersive experience, definitely pick this up. It does increase the price of admission by a fair deal, but such is life, I suppose. When you have completed 3 different key challenges and unlocked 3 keys, you get access to this sort of Bowser Jr. Minigame event thing. Your shadow is projected on a screen and then you can interact with it, which is really fun. I loved that. I did it 3 times. Once you've spent your 3 coins, they reset and you need to go do more challenges to get more keys if you want to enter again, which is something I did do. I really like that. It sort of gives you a goal to reach towards. And then if you want to do it again, there's sort of a cooldown period where you're like, yeah, okay, well, if I want to go again into the Bowser Jr. thing, which is probably the most fun of the challenges, I have to do some other ones first, so that just sort of gives you more incentive to replay the games you've already played if you want to get more keys. The next functionality of the band is that it interacts with the Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge ride. But yeah, this is definitely one of the most impressive and fun theme park rides I've ever been on. We'll start off with the line itself, which features lots of surprising elements, and waiting it, the longest I waited was an hour, and that was the first day, which I did not mind all that much, especially since I hadn't been in the line before, because there's so much detail, there's so much to look at, and I think the line is very well designed to keep you engaged and give you stuff to look at while you're waiting for your turn in the queue. And then eventually you get to a part where you get a visor and go into the cart, and then you all sort of compete in that cart. There's quite a lot of instruction before you get into the cart itself. There's quite a long instructional video, which did not have any recorded dialogue, so it was all like based on video and pictures, which is kind of interesting because usually you would have a person talking to you and instructing you what to do, especially for a ride so complicated compared to many others. And then when you get into the cart, you put on a glass visor and that acts as sort of an augmented reality screen. And it works pretty well. I think it's not as impressive as I might have hoped. Characters do look a little see-through and they sort of shake around a little bit. Overall, it definitely works and the illusion is pretty good. But it's not as miraculous as I might have hoped. Still very cool and definitely a lot of fun. Essentially the main gameplay is that you look around and press buttons on your wheel to fire shells at enemies, and that gives you coins. You also get coins by turning the wheel at specified times, and it'll give you an icon to which way to turn it. So yeah, I did that, and I gotta say the first time you go through is pretty crazy because it's just totally sensory overload and everything's moving really quickly. And I gotta say it was a little emotional going through it because you get some of that music, the visuals are happening, it's just so much happening, and you're like, damn, this is crazy. I cannot believe that this is happening right now. And when you get out, the Nintendo World employees are all clapping for you, and they do that basically after every race. But yeah, that was my first time. I only did it once the first day, and then I did it like 6 times the second day because the crowds were a lot less. And I also figured out the single rider line is definitely a thing to do if you want extremely short wait times, because there was basically no one in the single rider line. On replay, it's definitely a lot of fun, and the coins that you earned are put into your app via tapping the wristband to the cartwheel at the start of the race. And you can earn badges, which are basically achievements. Our next section is the music. The music of Super Nintendo World is one of my favorite things about it. Across the whole land, there's just amazing remixes of Mario music, and it's really just exceptional. None are like reused from the games. They all, as far as I'm aware, are reorchestrated, rearranged versions to fit within a theme park setting. The tracks can be pretty lengthy and feature quite a lot of variety, and some of the ones that they chose really surprised me and were really fun to listen to in a park setting. That helped a lot with the immersion. It was just great. Extremely well designed and well implemented. I'd say the highlight of my second day in Super Nintendo World was getting to go to Toad Cafe. The way it works is you have to basically reserve a time to get in using a QR code at the entrance. But the first day it just didn't really make sense, so going on the second day seemed like a more logical choice since there was less of a crowd. But yeah, set a time, went in there, and it was wow. This was definitely one of the most exceptional parts of the trip. You have a big screen when you get in with Chef Toad, who runs the Toad Cafe, and then you order your food, and they have some pretty wacky items, some Mario themed items. I got the spaghetti spaghetti, which was pretty good. It was good, but it was not exceptional. I'd say the experience around the food was definitely the best part. My sister got some mushroom soup, which actually came in a Mario mushroom shaped bowl, and you get to actually keep the bowl when you leave the cafe, which is pretty fun. It's like a plastic dishware thing. That was a nice thing to be able to get that. The music in here is really some of the best in the whole land. But while you wait, you can look at the various different windows, all of which have a screen on them displaying different scenes of toads, either out and about in the land or preparing the food. We were next to the kitchen, so we saw some toads making soup and flipping burgers. Pretty dang charming. On the other screen, we could see toads playing leapfrog and jump rope. So that was just amazing. Yeah, that was great. This was just tons of fun. I would recommend not getting that much from the menu because it's all pretty overpriced, but you know, you're paying for the experience of being in Toad Cafe, so there you go. I would say the other thing I have to talk about in the land is the meet and greet with the characters and the suits. I got to say hi to Toad and Princess Peach. Mario and Luigi, the line was always just a bit too long. I didn't really feel like waiting in line, though maybe I'll do that at some point when I go back. But yeah, meeting Toad was crazy. I mean, he was so animated, he was moving, he was doing Toad things, he was making the Toad sounds. That was a beautiful moment that means a lot to me. I will say he's like really small. Toad is like super short, which is accurate, but it's like kind of surprising. I'm like, wow, I don't even know how they did that. That really is Toad right there. He's just chilling, hanging about. And with Peach, her mouth moves when she talks. It's slightly unsettling, but yeah, there's sort of an uncanny vibe. But hey, you know what? It's still pretty cool. I'll also talk about the stores. There's quite a lot of stores. I think there might be like 6 of them which sell the official Super Nintendo World merch. I wouldn't say the merch was super exciting. There's definitely some cool stuff, but nothing that's like, yeah, you have to get that. Other than the wristbands, which are more functional than they are anything else. It's, you know, a little anti-consumer to have this sort of hidden cost in there, but corporations, bro, what you gonna do? So Super Nintendo World, this has been a long time coming. It was announced so many years ago. I do feel lucky that the Hollywood version was the second one that was built as opposed to the Orlando version, because it's just so much easier for me to go to LA than it is Florida. It is missing, I think, the Yoshi ride from the Japan one and probably a few other things. As a land, this is pretty groundbreaking, just in the amount of interactivity and activities you can do. It's all interconnected with this app where you have the rankings and collecting coins, then feeds into the Mario Kart ride. So everything's just sort of interconnected and functioning together to form the land, which is, it's a feat of engineering and planning. It's like not the biggest land space, but it feels big because it has so much density of detail and functionality. I've definitely never been to a theme park experience quite like it. I don't think one exists other than it, so really impressed by it. I did live up to expectations. I had, you know, high expectations based on everything I'd seen, and I think it definitely lived up to that. Setting aside the time and money for a trip is quite a challenge. I really hate planning trips, but it was definitely worth doing for getting a chance to go to Nintendo World. I wanted to go since it opened, but you know, the timing wasn't right until this January. I also find it interesting that this whole land is basically themed around Wii U games. The Mario Kart ride is pretty much only based on Mario Kart 8, not really the deluxe version even, because there's no tracks from 8 Deluxe, pretty much all from base Mario Kart 8. And then the land itself, the actual physical space, is basically just 3D World, but realized in physical space. And then the music is, you know, mostly just the Mario theme, and then some from 3D World, some from Mario Kart 8. I'm also really looking forward to the potential of other Nintendo areas being added to Nintendo World. I think there's been some rumors. I do hope they add more Nintendo stuff. There's a tiny bit of representation for other Nintendo series in the form of some hidden Pikmin that are just placed in the park in little secret little areas that you might run across, which is really, really cool. But other than that, there's really not any other Nintendo series in spite of it being called Super Nintendo World. Of course, for me personally, getting a Kirby land in a Super Nintendo World would be the dream. Probably not the most likely to happen next. So yeah, I think they're definitely going to do Zelda, Pokemon, more Mario, more Donkey Kong, get the bigger franchises out of the way before we ever get something Kirby related. But I do hope that happens at some point, because that would be truly special. to be able to enter the Kirby world in a physical space. I've said this before, but getting a Kirby Cafe location in Universal Studios would be probably the easiest way to get some sort of Kirby representation in a park. I know that's separate from Universal Studios, but I don't know, man. I feel like it would be a perfect fit to have a Kirby Cafe just nestled in there somewhere in Universal. I mean, oh my god, having a US location for that would be just ridiculous. Would love to see that. Not super likely, but that's sort of the avenue I can see that would be the most possible. Hopefully one day. Obviously, I'm very, very satisfied with what we have now, and you know, the future rumors are also very exciting. But you know, Kirby, I mean, come on, who doesn't want to visit Dreamland? That sounds spectacular. I love Super Nintendo World. I think that if you are at some point in the future able to go, you should definitely seize the opportunity. Goodbye, friends.